like to share the story of the life of a little Italian woman who lived in the 16th century. When she was young, Angela was called Sir Angela, Sister Angela, although she was not a nun. When she was older, she was called La Madre, although she was not a mother. How did she come to know God? What inspired her to create a new form of consecrated life in the world? And what does her life say to our lives today? Angela was born in Desenzano in northern Italy, a small town situated on a beautiful lake. She was the daughter of Giovanni Merici. Giovanni was a small farmer and a landowner. Her mother was Caterina Biacosi, from a wealthier family from Salo. It seems as if the family was of comfortable means. Both Desenzano and Salo are located on Lake Garda and are places you would love to visit. In Angela's time, the lake would have been a small port. Now it's a tourist area. Angela's childhood was probably typical for a girl of her time from her level of society. She learned to read but could not write. She had no formal education. She mentions that her father read to the family from the lives of the saints. One of the most popular books of that time was The Golden Legend, a book that gave inspiring stories about the saints. One of the saints whose story is told in this book is Saint Ursula. Remember that printing was not as yet that common, so having and sharing books was a special treat. The most significant event of Angela's childhood was the death of her sister when Angela was a young teen. This is a picture of Angela's home. It is outside of the town where the family lived on their farm. Angela would have spent a happy childhood here, sharing in the usual tasks of family life, including farm work, laundry, cooking, and carrying water. We don't know a lot about her siblings, but we do know that she had at least one sister and at least two brothers. This is the room where Angela slept. It is not restored as it would have been in her childhood, but the map tells us how she chose not to sleep in a bed throughout her life as a form of penance. Very early in her life, Angela was serious about her relationship with God. She spent long periods of time in prayer and believed in fasting as a path to a holy life. This early, happy life came to a sudden end with the death of her sister when Angela was a young teen, and the death of her parents not long after. Following these tragic events, Angela went to Salo to live with her mother's relatives. What were the times like when Angela was growing up? It was a period of the Renaissance, that time of renewal of learning and excitement about new ideas and new art. There are those, however, who ask, was there a Renaissance for women? Opportunities for women were still lacking in this age of renewal. This is also the beginning of the Reformation. Remember, Angela will found the Company of St. Ursula in 1535. Martin Luther nailed his thesis to the door of Wittenberg in 1517. As Luther had indicated, there was a tremendous need for church reform at this time. Priests were not educated. Women were forced into convents when a suitable marriage was not available. Bishops didn't even visit their dioceses. Family life and life in general was in turmoil in northern Italy as various city-states warred with one another. Choices for women were extremely limited. Marriages were arranged for family benefit. Convents were unavailable if one lacked a dowry, and prostitution was rampant. The most significant spiritual events of Angela's youth were two events that we will call her visions. They are usually described as one event, but recent studies suggest two. The descriptions are told like this. Angela, longing to know that the soul of her sister was safe in eternal happiness, prayed to God daily for certainty. At harvest time, out in the fields, when her companions went to have their meal, Angela usually withdrew to pray. One day, while she was in ecstasy, she saw the heaven open and a glorious procession of angels and virgins advancing two by two. The young virgins were singing to the sound of music made by the angels. The song was so deeply impressed on her memory that afterwards she was able to sing it. While the procession passed before her, the young girl recognized one of the virgins as her beloved sister. Her sister stood and the whole procession with her. Then, looking into the future, she told Angela that God wanted to make use of her to found a company of consecrated virgins. Various testimonies throughout her life confirm that Anđela talked about this experience of seeing that her sister had achieved salvation. Recent research suggests that the first vision took place near her home in Desenzano and before she moved to Salo. The second vision took place as a young adult when she had returned to Desenzano. This is a picture of the site of the vision. It has been considered to be a holy place in the memory of the people of that region for over 400 years. The site now holds a retreat house where visitors can stay. What could it have meant to Anđela to have come to believe that she would form a company of virgins? Remember, she was not well educated and not wealthy. It would seem that, like Mary, the Mother of God, she would ponder the meaning in her heart for many, many years. Anđela returned to Desenzano as a young adult. While she was in Salo, she had joined the Third Order of St. Francis. In 1516, when she was about 42 years old, Anđela was asked by her Franciscan superiors to move to Brescia to offer comfort to a woman who had recently been widowed. This is a picture of the Duomo in Brescia. It was across the square from this church that many years later, Anđela would meet with the young women with whom she would form the company. For the next 23 years, she lived in Brescia and became well known for her holiness throughout that region. What did she do? She lived a life of holiness and prayer. She fasted. She called others to holiness. She visited and comforted people. Men and women came to her for advice. Although she did not have an official church apostolate, I would say she mostly was involved in what today we would call counseling, spiritual direction, evangelization, and catechetics. The picture here is of the Church of St. Anđela in Brescia. During her life, the Church of St. Afra was located here. Anđela lived in 2 rooms attached to the church during the last years of her life. It was at this site that the first women signed the Book of the Company. It was here that Anđela was buried. The church was bombed by the United States during the Second World War. After it was rebuilt, it was renamed in Anđela's honor. One of the very unusual things about Anđela's life were her many pilgrimages. Imagine travel in those days. It was both difficult and dangerous. Yet Anđela visited the Holy Land, Rome, Venice, Verona, and other places. When she was in Venice, the leader of that city asked her to remain and lead some of the charitable works there, but she refused and returned to Brescia. When she went to Rome, she met with Pope Clement VII, who also asked her to remain and work in Rome. She left as soon as she could so she would not be pressured to acquiesce to the Pope's request. In 1530, back in Brescia, Anđela moved to the Church of St. Afra and began to finally design the work to which she had been called. She began the process of forming a new form of life in the church, which she named the Company of St. Ursula. This is a painting of St. Ursula as done by the Italian artist Moretto. It is located in the Church of St. Clement. Anđela actually saw this painting. He may have been inspired by her devotion to paint it. Anđela designed an unusual organization. It provided a way for women to seek holiness, remain unmarried, stay living in their own homes, and remain in the world doing good works. The first virgins were formed by Anđela in the house of Isabetta Preto, and on November 25th, 1535, the feast of St. Catherine of Alexandria, the women came together to sign the Book of the Company. The structure of the company provided for 4 leaders to serve as guides of the young virgins, 4 wealthy widows who would share their wisdom and provide financial support, and 4 men to carry out necessary business and legal matters. On January 27th, 1540, Anđela died. This was less than 5 years after she completed her work. This is a picture of her body, still on display in the Church of St. Anđela. Anđela's legacy continues today. In Desenzano, the new parish has been named in her honor. Here we see the Youngstown Ursuline Sisters in Italy. And again, this totem honors the history of the Ursulines. This is an African statue of Anđela. a statue in Thailand, and a statue in Australia. Our patroness, Saint Ursula. But that's a story for another time.